Hey there, I'm Lio Convoy. As I'm sure it's obvious to everyone, I'm a Transformers fan. Due to me being older than dirt though, it's easy to surmise that I grew up on G1 all the way through Robots in Disguise 2001. This means my perspective will likely be different than that of a younger person in the fandom. While the derogatory term G1er is thrown around a lot for people my age, I'll respect your perspective on things so long as you respect mine. Everyone got it? Good. This video is about the infamous Decepticon leader Megatron. A despot, a tyrant, and a power-hungry manipulator. While more modern media has recast him as more of a revolutionary that went too far, that's not the one we'll be discussing today. The Megatron we're discussing is the one I, and many people my age, grew up knowing. A Megatron that cares for little more than what he can conquer or subjugate. While a complex villain can be good, sometimes you just need a villain that's an irredeemable dirtbag. And G1 Megatron fits that bill perfectly. Now that we're settled on which variation we're discussing, let's move on to the focal point of the topic. A think piece on why Megatron should be a gun similar to the G1 incarnation. Please note that this isn't me trying to make demands or being an old fuddy-duddy. I'm fine with change in general. It'd be hard not to be considering the very nature of what we're discussing. This is just me getting some conceptual thoughts out there. First, though, let's go through the history of this tin-plated tyrant. During the conceptualization of the Transformers, Hasbro brought in multiple different toy lines from Japan to fill out the rosters and the shelves. This included toys from companies like Diaclone and Bandai. At this point, they were looking at which toy would be the respective leaders of the factions. It was easy for the Autobots. The semi-truck was the king of the road, and there's no denying the heroic presence Battle Convoy from Diaclone had. The Decepticons were trickier, though. Originally, the leader was going to be Soundwave. Heck, it's why the Decepticon faction logo is based on his head. But something changed. A new acquisition from the Japanese Microchange line, a Walter P-38 pistol, with an added stock, silencer, and scope. It was the history of this specific firearm that set the decision in concrete, though. This was a firearm used in World War II by the German military. A toy of a literal Nazi weapon was too perfect of a match for a leader of an evil army. And so, Megatron was born. Utilized by his fellow Decepticons as a firearm or just dealing out destruction in robot mode, Megatron was a force to be reckoned with in the fiction of the Transformers. In the real world, though, there were issues. See, this toy was a good replica of the real weapon. Too good. At even a short distance, it could be mistaken for the real thing. It was due to Megatron and a few other similar toys that a federal law was put forth in 1988 and went into full effect in 1992. The law states, 15 U.S. Code 5001, it shall be unlawful for any person to manufacture, enter into commerce, ship, transport, or receive any toy, look-alike, or imitation firearm, unless such firearm contains, or has affixed to it, a marking approved by the Consumer Production Safety Commission, as provided in subsection B. Subsection B. Distinctive marking or device, exception, waiver, adjustments, and changes. 1. Except as provided in paragraph 2 or 3, each toy, look-alike, or imitation firearm shall have as an integral part, permanently affixed, a blaze orange plug inserted into the barrel of such toy, look-alike, or imitation firearm. Each plug shall be recessed to no more than 6 mm from the muzzle end of the barrel of such firearm. To cut it short, realistic guns in traditional colors are now illegal to be sold as children's playthings. In fact, later on in the code it even specifies colors like white, purple, and yellow to be used in these toys. Which is why the ones that are produced have to adhere to these specific color codes. This actually led to Hasbro making a spoof G1 Megatron reissue mock-up in the gaudy colors described. This is the main reason why when G2 came out, Megatron was changed into a tank. In fiction, this was facilitated with the help of Cobra Commander. This is the origin of the tank Megatron that's now the most familiar alt mode of the Metal Menace. However, in 2006, Hasbro released a toy line called Classics for their Transformers line to fill the gap on shelves between Transformers Cybertron and the live-action films. It was here, for the first time in 22 years, that Megatron was depicted as a gun on the toy shelves. Based this time on a Nerf gun, this Megatron adhered to all codes and requirements by law. And, frankly, I think he works pretty well. The white isn't bad, and the purple and yellow are common Decepticon colors. Those colors also allowed for the orange muzzle to be in place without it looking off in design. Japan had their own, more G1 accurate colored one for their Henkei line, but the laws are different there. The last time Megatron was a gun was almost 15 years ago as part of the Reveal the Shield line, a legend-scaled figure that is tiny. No mistaking him for a real firearm at all. Nowadays, Megatron is a tank or a jet. While arguments can be made for both, I'll go ahead now and make my case for why I think he should be a firearm. A pistol, specifically. A pistol is a fairly personal weapon for someone, especially in warfare. Now is when we take a look at Megatron as a character in G1. While he's absolutely powerful, he's not capable of conquering planets all by himself. He's no Frieza. He relies on an army, on his troops, to do the heavy lifting. Him becoming a pistol leads into that. He has to put some level of trust in his troops, and they in him, to properly utilize the full terror of Megatron's power to instill his rule. This alt mode serves two purposes: to convince his troops that he's capable of doing the damage at their hands when needed, but also has the added purpose of manipulating his followers into believing he's just one of them, despite the abuse he sometimes puts them through. Think about it within the blanket of fiction. Megatron's alt mode could have been anything. A tank, a jet, a battlecruiser, anything massive and destructive. He chose a gun. That was a deliberate choice on his end. This goes back to the personal aspect of this pistol. Any soldier is going to have such a weapon on them. As such, it communicates to his fellow Decepticons that he is the very tool, or instrument of destruction, that symbolizes their cause and power. It gives a false air of humility, one Megatron would absolutely capitalize on. While I'm aware that Skybound seems to be doing this, it's a concept I'd like explored more in fiction when it comes to Megatron. There's also the other avenues of storytelling that this alt mode could give access to. For example, in the recent Gatchaman comic Galactor subline, it's revealed that one way the alien invaders took root on Earth is by infiltrating and eventually overtaking underworld connections via the mob. This is a dimension that could be explored with Megatron with his gun alt mode, adding the possibility of long-term human allies that would also push the Decepticon cause. While Optimus and the Autobots have their own human cohorts that they connect with emotionally, Megatron could use his own human connections to further learn how human society works and how to best manipulate them. Why fight completely with your army when you can have an entire group of humans subservient to you? What of the toy shelves, though? Well, Hasbro has done a modern gun Megatron before, so I know they could do it again. I don't think they will, though. That requires a lot more effort and hoops to jump through than they're likely willing to do now. They probably did it in 2006 out of desperation to have it on the shelves to fill the spots. I'm sure there's a lot of other concepts and thoughts people could give about this subject, and I'd love to hear them. Tell me what you think in the comments below. If you want to support me, links to Patreon and channel memberships are in the description. I'd certainly appreciate it. You're also welcome to join the community Discord. That's it for now. Take care.